The big conversation where the real ones talk. From the heart of the nation, we all take that walk. Through the fire, through the facts, we don't hold back.
All right, welcome back to the show. Today on The Big Conversation, we're turning the spotlight on something many talk about, but very few truly understand: what it really means to build a disability-inclusive country. Beyond policies and promises, inclusion is about access, representation, opportunity, and dignity. It's about creating a society where persons with disabilities are not placed on the margins, but fully seen, heard, and factored into national development. And to help us unpack this, we have someone whose work sits right at the heart of governance, media, advocacy, and social justice. He is a journalist, a policy analyst, and a leading voice for disability inclusion across Africa, Yinka Olaito. He has spent over 2 decades championing equal representation and pushing for real policy shifts that give persons with disabilities the space and support they deserve. He's going to be joining us virtually in a bit, but of course we're going to be kickstarting the conversation on how we can build a very inclusive country. I'm sure you've probably seen, now my ladies, you've probably seen persons living with disabilities in the country. And I mean, my main question now for us is, do we even think that currently our country is disability inclusive, with the way things are currently?
Not completely. The way the structure is designed, it doesn't really encourage an open avenue for people with disability.
Yeah.
For you to see, if for someone who cannot work and you're trying to get on a bus, how do they create an avenue for them to enter inside? There is a lot of discrimination that goes on, not just in Nigeria, all across the world. So I would not say we are still opening up to the idea of fully accepting that they are one of us and they are normal people. But I would not say Nigeria has fully reached complete acceptance of people living.
Okay.
There.
So before you go, I'm told we have our guest joining us via Zoom. Mr. Yinka, can you hear us? Okay, I think we need to work audio. Can you hear us?
I can hear you very clearly. Hello, can you hear me? I can hear you very clearly.
All right. Okay. So I think whilst we're working on the technical,
I was going to say that. I mean, it's funny enough. My salon where I make my hair has a ramp, so I was really impressed to see that. I mean, I never even thought about it because you have even established institutions that don't have such. We have banks.
Yes.
If anyone with a disability wants to enter a bank, it's always a very Herculean task for them. So most of them will even stand outside, have someone go with them. So it then reinforces the fact that they have to be dependent all their lives when society can simply be enabled so that they don't have to be so dependent. So I think yes, we're just opening up to it, and it speaks to the fact. I'm glad that our guest today is a policy person. So I mean, we need to go back to the policies, because if there are not policies in place, I'm not sure that anyone in their private life would naturally think about it, except maybe they have personal experiences. So it's policies that would drive such action. So I think that if we are more decisive about the policies that we put out, and also about implementation, I think we'll have more, of such enabled environments. I was happy when I saw that such a thing was in where I make my hair. I mean, a salon.
Is it a really big salon or just?
No, just a ring road. It's not
so
big.
it's good. So you don't have to be like a really big
it's not really high.
before you start to include.
Yes, it's just a basic building, and they factored in the fact that some people with disability might want to use their services, and so they did that. So I was really impressed by that. So I think that for people who are, individuals, whether you have such personal experiences or not, it's just some of the things that we need to start being conscious about. Many of us just do, our personal things. We don't even think about it. And funny enough, even in government establishments, sometimes it took interventions of, international organizations with interventions to come and, start putting those things in place as a form of checklist.
True.
You know, for you to access certain things. So they want to see how inclusive you are. So because of that aesthetic, you know, reason, people now start, you know, government establishments are now beginning to take it seriously. But ideally, we haven't come to that point where we're very decisive.
So we have our guest now. So we have our guest now. So let's hear from him, Mr. Olaito. Can you hear us now, sir?
I can hear you very clearly. Can you
hear me? Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Good morning, you ladies are looking very great.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. So, I mean, with the conversation we have on the table today, how do you think we can become that inclusive country, especially with your experience in policy?
I want to say thank you. And it's part of being a good citizen or a good corporate organization for you to hold this kind of conversation is because it's not everybody or every media house, because this area of conversation does not actually bring money. And so I know that because of the paucity of fund, most media houses will not want even to discuss it, but it shows part of your goal as a leadership, a media platform that emphasizes inclusion, because we cannot go anywhere. If you look at what the society demands, I think that one of the challenges that we have, because people actually understand the value of inclusion and what it can bring to Nigeria. You see, most of the challenges we are having today in Nigeria is because there's no inclusiveness, but especially with disability. You know, we have a lot of cries today where the minorities are crying out that they are not included. But within the minority, there are also a minority and underrepresented, where persons with disability become the major target. And let us go through the trail. Yes, we already have Disability Act of 2018, but how far have we gone? We already signed into international protocols around persons with disability, their right. We have signed to United Nations Charter of Human Rights of Persons with Disability. We've signed to Africa Charter Right of Persons with Disability, which make a demand on us as a nation and as a leader in Africa for us to understand that signing the document is not just for tokenism. It is about willingness to do it. Unfortunately, we've signed that. We already have a National Commission for Persons with Disability that have been established. Most of the states in Nigeria already have disability law and commission. I know that most of the states in the West, in the Southwest, have done that, except Ogun State. Oyo State has already done its own, and they have an agency. Unfortunately, the problem I have with that, with just having law, is the fact that law is useless when it's not implemented.
Precisely.
Law is useless when there's no a reward and punishment, because we do a lot of things. Let me tell you this, one of the requirements of that law is that every building, every public buildings and everything that we do, we have a 5-year moratorium, which is 2018 to 2013 and hopefully 2014. That 5 years have gone. Check our public offices, check our public situation, check accessibility, check our transportation, check our health system, check just almost everywhere. But you see, we cannot continue to talk about the challenges. I have seen that government is trying to do a little, and part of us as part of what we do as Center for Disability is to advocate for persons with disability, equal representation, and therefore part of the policy that we have been focusing on that will be challenging. Why is it difficult to implement this thing? Why is it difficult? Because today, if you see the theme of this year, fostering leadership, and it places a demand on government for leadership and in terms of governance and decision making.
Yes.
We don't have many people who are persons with disability in decision making. And when you are not there, how will somebody be able to tell you what to do?
Yes.
These are the challenges that I think we have, and I think that we need to begin to look at.
Yes.
It is unfair on the part of persons with disability to have 37 million Nigerians who are persons with disability and they are not included. Their voices are not heard. Yes, we can do tokenism. I also appreciate the fact that last year, government made a law that at least every local government must have a special assistant to the chairman at every local government level who represent the issue of person with disability. Unfortunately, we have seen all around, not only in Oyo State, in every other state, that some of the people who are even taken or appointed as special assistant to the chairman on disability law knows nothing about it.
Yeah, Mr. Yinka. Mr. Yinka, yeah, thank you so much. You've highlighted a lot of topical issues here, and one of the things that we even resonate with on the table is how we talk about laws being put in place, but there is always a deficiency in implementation. Now, I think, in our roles as, business owners, educators, and just an ordinary citizen, we also need to push for, say, for example, I have my building. I need to ensure that, just like it is stipulated, I need to ensure that it is, inclusive for every single person, including people with, disabilities. So there is no stereotype or there is no, segregation. Now, say, for example, I don't know if you know her, Lizzie O. She's based in the US, and following her content, I see the difference in their country and our country, because even though when she's talking about, her disability, there's still a little bit of, there needs to be a lot more awareness. We see that there is some step. Only she knows.
Here in Nigeria.
Because she has shown how her car, she can drive, even though she can't walk, right? She's able to fly without having any issues. So I think, from what our guest has also said, the issue is still maybe awareness or to push. So how can we, increase our voice even more?
I'm glad that, our guest talked about leadership.
Yes.
So there's recognition, there's representation.
Yes.
So first of all, we need to recognize that there are, as he said, 37 million of us
That's a lot.
who are living with disabilities, and that does not make them less human. They're human beings just like us. So we need to accept that first. That's recognizing that. When we now do that, then we translate that to representation. That's where we can now talk about social justice. There's no social justice when, some part of the population is not represented. So I was going to ask our guest how, in terms of leadership, I know that, he talked about how there's a quota for special advisors for at the local government levels. I know that all over the 36 states, there is no executive governor who lives with a disability. I know that I think was it Imo State? The governor of Imo State, I think he lives with albinism, and he was sharing his own story about how, despite his physical disability, I don't know exactly disability, but they are part of the joint National Association of Persons with Disabilities. So maybe that can also. But I would like our guests to weigh in on that.
Yeah.
But my point is that, of all the 36 state governors, you don't have anybody living with a declared disability. The cabinet is also full of people who are not living with disabilities. So it's very challenging to have policies. It's just like one was saying, women should be included, women should be, but we don't have enough women in policy making, roles. So I wanted to ask, our guest today, in terms of how people living with disability can push for more roles. Apart from just, special assistants, there are people who have, capacities, even in their private, practices that can, be appointed, maybe at ministerial level or places where they can get to actually make decisions. Are there things that can be done beyond just relying on government policies? And also for people, just general public, other stakeholders, what are the roles that we can really play so that we can move from the level of, verbalizing these things to actually making it actionable?
Love it. Let's hear from our guests.
Thank you for that question. One thing that I'll first of all say is this. Number one, our laws stipulate that at least 5% of every employer, if you have 100 person in your employment, 5% of them should be person with disability. That's number one. Number two, because inclusion is not do it. We cannot blame the government alone. There's a part of private, there's a part of individuals. Now, the stigmatization issue, lack of awareness at the society level, at the family level. Even when a person has a child with disability, they hide them. So you see that awareness is a family has to be a place where a child with disability is loved, is promoted, is given all the things to excel. In Western world, when you have a person with disability, they don't hide you. In fact, they want you to excel. So for every political parties, in the laws of every political party, it will amaze you that there's a provision and there's a demand from INEC that person underrepresented people, especially person with disability, should also be given a slot. Now we are talking about reserved seats for women. But the fact also remains that the issue of person with disability and political participation has always been there. And I can tell you that I was in a forum yesterday, I was telling them that among the 37 million Nigeria, at least we have average of 10% of that population that are educated, that are qualified, that can do. But I think that from the OPD, what we call OPD is Organization of Persons with Disability. Let's start from there. What they can do is to begin to speak out, because I've seen that most person with disability, because of the shape, the stereotype, most of them do not have that confidence to come out. And that's one of the things we are building leadership and self-esteem, because it takes you to understand that you are human before, even though people say you are not human, it takes people for you to understand human and have a right to begin to speak out. So the first thing is, within the individual or person with disability, you need to first of all build your self-esteem and capacity to be able to speak out. The families, we call them families of persons with disability, they need to help these people. They need to come out and show that disability is not inability. Because if you go global, a president had ruled America on wheelchair. So if the parents are feeding them, so that's the role of the parent in this issue. Then we're talking about private institutions. Everybody, lack of awareness is still there, and then it has shown that when you hire a person with disability, they are very creative, and you lose a lot of innovation when you don't hire them or when you don't include them. So we have seen that we are losing, the corporate organization, the business are losing a lot because they are not involving them. And one other thing that we have seen is that government is not encouraging private organizations. In places like Germany and all of that, they have a reward system for organizations that actually hire a person with disability. Maybe they partly pay their salary. So that encourages more companies and organizations. So the incentive to really actually make this, make our talk, make whatever we say is not there here. But I think that government needs to be, government is the enabler. That's why we say this year is fostering leadership. INEC is trying. We've challenged INEC about their voting rights and all of that. INEC is trying by creating a lot of opportunity for them to be able to vote. But we have seen that there's still a long way to go. In our schools, how many of those schools are accessible? When you talk about accessibility, and sometimes within our government organization, within our private organizations should just move beyond tokenism. Because I've seen that they'll just say, we have RAM. What is RAM? Are we saying that person with disability, because there are about 7 clusters of person with disability, we have the people with ability, we have the DOHAB, we have hearing impaired, we have speech impaired, we have visually impaired. And so when you concentrate on doing RAM is just one of the, we are just trying to solve the problem of one of the cluster out of the 7. So interestingly, the standard, there's a national audit, audit on how accessibility should be made.
Yes.
Even the RAM that we have in banks and most of these places are not up to standard. Go and try it. Take a person with wheelchair and let them try and climb that thing, whether their wheelchair will not go back.
Yes.
So you see that we are still not very serious. And I think it is government that is not making that really go to our secretariat. How many of those days are really accessible? How many persons with disability can actually go to a government building and be able to access and do whatever they want to do? Like I said, we have concentrated on ramp alone.
Yes.
What about person with visually impaired?
Yes.
How do they access the building?
Ms. Yinka, just before we let you go, you've mentioned a number of vital things about, private organizations having to provide accessibility besides just ramps. But I think what most of them usually say is, funding, or not even private, so private, public, most of them would always fall back to, oh, there's no proper funding to get to make their facilities to be accessible to persons with disabilities. It would cost a lot of money. So, I mean, what would your response be to that one as regards the excuse they have to not making their facilities, very much accessible?
Thank you for that question. What I always say is this. As you look at the cost-benefit analysis of that talk or that position, what will you lose if you take that position and you are looking at? There's always a solution when there's a strong will. The problem is that there's no political and strong way to actually do this thing. Accessibility is not that costly when you compare it with the value that you get, and you lose global respect. Your organization, see, the way we're going, without disability and inclusion, we are going to be losing. There's now what we call environment, social, and governance, which are the standard of rating companies and government. Your rating will be low, and the moment your rating is low, it means that you can't have investors coming back to you, or you can't enjoy investment opportunity globally. It also means that when you do things that way without looking at your leadership influence will be low, because you are seen as person who always give excuses. What am I trying to say? We cannot continue to give excuses for what is. See, when it comes to disability and inclusion, it is not that hard. We just have to see. There's always a way where there's a will. The challenge is that we think that we are not even aware. Lack of awareness is a problem that I see here, and I think that as I live, it is important for us to understand that we cannot do without disability inclusive society today, because leaving some people behind is much more. It reduces your rating. It reduces your leadership capacity, and when we continue to do this continually, we eventually lose major other factors, because globally nobody wants to invest in an organization who is not inclusive. Now, even in the media, let me challenge the media. Thank you for what you are doing for this platform, but media needs to begin to look, because we're the gatekeeper of the society. We need to show them the example. We must, media houses, that's why we're advocating that there must be what we call disability inclusive desk. Like you have investigative desk. We must be able to hire journalists with disability. I'm not saying that you should hire all of them, but even with this one or two, to show that we are leading what we're talking. But I must commend you. You are doing a good work. At least you have this conversation. That is part of what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yinka. Thank you for lending your voice on this very vital conversation. And we're going to take a lot of things from what you said. We're going to take it home and, to the media, to the government, and even for organizations, see where we are lacking, and, of course, take actionable steps to making things better, and, of course, making our country more
implementation is the bigger problem. We need
Thank
to
you so much for joining us.
need to run with implementation.
Yes, sir.
We have good laws.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. Amazing, amazing. I think he has said a lot. So I'm just going to throw it to you, Abigail, now, as he challenged the media, and as you, Seth, you are in the media, right? So what role do you think we can play to properly position? Because the truth is, when we talk about persons with disabilities, there's a lot of stereotype, because he also mentioned not just for the people, but even their parents. You see them wanting to hide their children. I don't know if a lot of people will be confident to say, oh, I work with this person, that has a disability. Everybody just gives a certain, like it's communicable, like it's a, precisely. How do you think we can properly mitigate that? Probably using the media.
Absolutely. I think awareness and advocacy would work very well in this, but I like the fact that he brought in the family system into this, because it starts, whatever happens outside, it actually starts from what we see going on in the house. There's a lot of stigmatization for children with disability, and I think it's completely wrong. So we as the media should create awareness to make people understand that these people are normal human beings. Let me give you a story that happened. I have a friend whereby he's disabled, but anytime I see him, I run to him and I shake him, and somebody came to me and like, did you wash your hands? And I felt really irritated by that statement. People still do not understand how important it is to have people like that amongst us. Look at this guy, Kanye Okeke, the 15-year-old boy, autistic child, who sets Guinness World Record.
Yes.
We have a track record of people with disability that are changing the narrative. So please, as media, I think we need to enlighten and sensitize people to tell them that we need to change the perspective we have of them and stop looking at people with disability as an object of charity.
Precisely. There's a lot of positivity that we can push to change. Is a cognitive realignment that a lot of people need in their mind, because I don't know why this person would think shaking this person will,
I'm telling you,
I
was so irritated by
but
that.
we have to go before
say that. The governor I was trying to say earlier
Okay.
was Akwa Ibom State Governor.
Oh, okay.
Umo Eno, who lives with albinism.
Yeah.
So yes,
Oh,
it's
okay.
one out of the 36, state governors that lives with a, albinism, if that passes for a
Oh no, he
disability.
mentioned it. I guess mentioned it that they're also part of it. But yes, there's still more to talk about on the conversation. We'll get to see our life hack, and we get back for agree or disagree segments. Don't go anywhere.
It's the big, big conversation. It's the big, big conversation.
Okay, so we're going straight into our agree or disagree segments. We've been talking about making our country disability inclusive. Okay, and of course we had our guest join us, and it was a very rich conversation. So let's see our statement of the day and see what we have to agree or disagree to, and of course defend our answers briefly. Oh, okay. The media shows persons with disabilities in a stereotypical way. The media shows persons with disabilities in a stereotypical way. Agree or disagree? Like they show people with disabilities in a particular light, probably demeaning lights. Because as we just talk about media now, I be like, say we don't know that this one difference. The media shows persons with disabilities in a stereotypical way.
That's very relative. I'll disagree.
Okay, you disagree?
Yeah.
I think I'll disagree too. I don't think that's correct.
Disagree.
Yeah. Well, okay, I want to agree because we had said how one of the roles the media has to play is to start to change people's mindset, and that's also because sometimes we see maybe in movies, in ads, the way they portray, they probably might not even portray or include persons with disabilities, right? And when they do, they give off they sideline them or give them the whole shift to one corner kind of, attitude, and that's one way it's
maybe practical. We don't have too much time, but I can't.
I'll just say in movies. I'll say in movies, and
if they say movies,
and when you now promote the movie on social media, and the medium is carrying it, is still intertwined with media.
But
I would want to hope
to
that
admit that they are different.
What's
different? People living with disability.
Yes.
Difference is a term that every one of us has to come to terms with. I'm different from you, even though we're all women. We have our different intersections. So let's not run away from difference. So yes, media can portray them as visually impaired. All the 7 pillars that our guest mentioned. Yeah, that's the best they can do. But then when you now talk about the opportunities, they shouldn't be sidelined because of that. But the fact that we do not admit that or accept that they're different or we're different from them, as a matter of fact, I don't think that's portraying them in a stereotypical way, if that's what this question is trying to say. So I say I disagree. Even if we should even credit the media, because for today we're bringing this conversation.
And we were different.
Exactly. So people
are
who
breaking
don't know,
out of it.
many Africans, many Nigerians today had no idea that December 3rd every year is dedicated for people living with disability. Well, now they know when they watch this. That's courtesy the media. So I think media is even portraying them. I mean, this conversation.
Exactly. I completely agree with you. I think media is doing a fantastic job with putting them out there and helping us see that they are. Well, you say they are different, but we all are different. Exactly. They are differently special. You get. So we see them playing sports, and they are even winning and bringing back gold medals. So I don't think the media is doing a bad job so far. It's just in our head. It's all in our head. Let's just change our mindset.
They are well received. We have entertainers who live with disability, and they have fans across the globe. Nobody remembers them. See Yinka Olaito. People don't remember the disability.
Stuff.
They just
although there are still some. There are still, of course, we know normally there would always be some naysayers, even in positivity. So, of course, there are always still that section of people where they will say, "Are you sure you are even truly disabled? Are you sure you are not faking it?" You see people do a lot of questioning things.
Bad belly, like we call them.
Maybe we don't see them as bad bellies, but it's a great conversation to have, and we see that the media has a lot of role to play as well. But before we go, let's see our wise words on the web, following up on today's conversation. Abigail, can you read for us, please?
Okay. True community exists when each person is valued and no one is invisible.
Max,
free.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's been a very rich conversation, like I said before.
Absolutely.
Today's conversation is a reminder that building a disability-inclusive country is not just the job of policymakers or advocates. It's a collective responsibility, all of us inside it together. Inclusion starts with awareness, but it must lead to action in our homes, workspaces, media spaces as well, and in the everyday choices that we make. A big thank you to our guest, Yinka Olaito, for challenging us to rethink access, representation, and justice for persons with disabilities. Conversations like this move us closer to a society where everyone can participate fully and thrive. Thank you to my ladies for weighing in on the conversation. And thank you for listening in today. Until next time, let's keep thinking, questioning, and building the kind of country we all deserve. Join us again tomorrow for another fabulous episode of The Big Conversation.
Voices rising, stories told, truth unfolding, brave and bold. In this space we speak our mind, different views all intertwined. It's the big conversation where the real ones talk. From the heart of the nation we all take that walk. Through the fire, through the facts we don't hold back. It's the big conversation.